online for. All right, so moving on. I've got everything that's in your tag on your quick notes worksheet and that we're going to cover. And I want to make sure, because it's 11:16, that I don't go too far overboard, because I can literally talk about several of the topics for a long period of time, but I just want to make sure I touch on them so you're aware. All right, so the filters and modifiers, that's something you need to make sure you share with your students if you're working with students. If you're not working with students, it's a great resource to have for just yourself. So I made sure that the this portion right here was hyperlinked so you can go look at the modifiers because there's a list of them. But let's start with the filters. So we're going to cover anything that you need to notate that I'm telling you right now. Let the quick notes be your quote unquote cheat sheet. I didn't want to call it that because anytime I tell students I'm giving them a cheat sheet, they get super excited until they realize it's more work on them. But at the end of the day, it's a resource that you can use. Remember, you can use your resources throughout your exam. So this is a resource for you. All right, so filters and modifiers in Google are basically, so you're going into your Google search, and I'm going to a basic Google search, and let's say we're looking for Chinese food, which is hard. Good Chinese food is hard to find in Atlanta, but that's just my opinion. The filters are, of course, available right here. You can look by maps. You can look by, I guess for Chinese food, maybe need to look and see who's poison, gave somebody food poison lately. I don't know. But that's a great resource to tell the students about looking at maps if you're looking at specific information, looking at the news, if especially if you're trying to keep your lesson current. Then of course you can click on the book tab, which will allow for them to look at books, whatever the the topic may be. Google breaks it down for you so they cannot say I can't find it, because students have a tendency to keep it on the all tab, and the very first thing they will say, I cannot find any information. Well, no, that's not the case. They also want you to be aware of anything that's in your search. Like oftentimes there may be advertisement on here. You have to realize most of the advertisement is going to be on the right hand side of your Google search. So we don't see any particular major advertisements, so that's really good. In regards to having more options to filter would be the image filter, which I love that, especially if I ask them to look for images. I always tell them, find me an image. Oftentimes I'm not even looking for words, I'm looking for visuals, but my students have a tendency to give me the simplest visual that they can find. So there's many options like that. Videos you can filter, which is usually at the top, but since I guess I'm looking for food, it adjusted itself. Then you also have, I don't know if anything gonna come up for flights, but it takes you to, usually it just, if I add something in regards to going to Dallas or Fort Worth, since my son and his wife live there, it will automatically already pull up flight options. But in this case, it didn't, because I wasn't specific enough on where I'm trying to go. And then, of course, on the finance, it might give you something. Oh, no, there's nothing. So it will, if there's nothing about Chinese, maybe if, oh, I was supposed to be Chinese food near me. Okay. So it's definitely very specific when we're looking at the filter. So you use the filter and teach your students how you want them to use the filter. The settings also allow for you to search by language, and you can see what other options are. The advanced search is no different than you searching for anything in your Google Drive or in your Gmail. It allows for you to minimize what you're looking for. If you're looking for a specific time period, a date, a language, it's all there for you. And make sure the tools are, in my opinion, you have to make sure, okay, let me go back to the images. This is a great example. Maybe I'll look for since this is the current, okay. This, I know my sister was talking about some art that they painted in Pensacola. So say, I want students to look for art that has been created on Black Lives Matters. When you're going into your tools, you can look at how long ago that art was posted. It doesn't make it more or less valid, it just depends on what the source is. And it also gives you a verbatim search column. There's a option for you to, on images, to determine what the copyrights are. Of course, if you're not into posting things publicly, it really wouldn't make a difference if you're not planning on sharing it. But especially students that want to share specific art, some, of course, you always explain to them about copyright. So it gives you an option to look at label for reuse to make sure they're not out here violating copyright, because I want people to know what copyrights are, especially students, because it's similar to plagiarism, as well as if they're the artist, then they want to be able to know that they have a right to say, no, you're not able to use my art for reuse. Because if you don't have copyright on it, then you can put it on the side of a McDonald's bag and it can, you know, be used as an advertisement, and McDonald's just receive free advertisement from you. But okay, so make sure that you're aware of how to search in by filter. Get familiar with that. It's very important. I honestly don't recall if it was something that was brought up in the level 1 exam or level 2, but I do remember that it plays a part. Okay, so that's about filters. In regards to modifiers, let me click on these really briefly. So I added the link on here. Your modifiers explain how you can search more effectively in regards to adding like @ symbols within your search bar. So if I'm adding an @ symbol up here, it will only look for @ symbol, and it said Twitter. It should only pull it, well, I'm on images, but it should be more narrowed down to all Twitter posts that are with @ So when you can add the dollar amount, you can add hashtags, you can add, if you're looking for, this is a great example. If you're looking for a jaguar, and you know jaguars are either cars or they're animals. So if you want it to be specific and you don't want to waste your time or your students' time to look for jaguars that are cars, you add those pieces of information in there. But it's, as you're going through those modifiers, just play around with it yourself so you're familiar with it, so you can pass on that knowledge. And that allows for the student and you, especially if you're researching. I know some people are in grad school or working on their doctorate, so you will be able to limit down your search. Because I mean, obviously Google has a million different, well, more than a million, billions of different resources. All right, the sync in Google, I'm just pointing it out because and you need to know, because you're syncing your information, and some people are anti-syncing, but obviously right now my daughter's been using my laptop, so everything that's in here is literally synced to her. So that's her name. That's my youngest child, Tasia. So she synced herself, into all of her information into my work computer. But you know, I don't know how ethical that is, but she did it anyway. So make sure that you look and see if your sync is on. You're familiar what sync means? It basically, everything is personalized to you for the entire computer, not just the what you signed into Gmail, if you signed into Yahoo or whatever. So it syncs you everything together, including possibly your debit card, credit cards. Of course, you can always deny and say, no, I don't want to sync my, card information. It always is going to have a pop-up unless you turn it off. And I don't recommend for you to do that. But if you want to sync your computer, this is where it be on the top right, and that's not where you personalize it, but that's how you connect all your personal information to your laptop. In regards to personalizing, and I know someone asked me about that. So for you to personalize, you click on your Google account, and some of you still have letters instead of pictures. So this is really for those of you that want to make sure you personalize it. You click on that, and if you want to change your picture, this is the place to do it. There's some other ways to personalize it, but I know someone asked me how to get rid of their letter in their profile, so that's how you do that. So make sure that you follow up on that and look at uh, some of the other tips that are given by clicking on manage your account, and it gives you information on security, personal information. So there you go. So I want to make sure I added that in, and it does talk about it in your Google Training Center. So I want to make sure I pointed that out. The next one is incognito and clearing your data. So incognito is what you will need for your assessment. When you take the assessment, it will specifically ask for you to go into incognito. How do you go to incognito? The three buttons on the top right, you click on that, and then it gives you an option to open a new incognito window. You'll always know when you're in incognito because everything turns completely black. Everything in your background, this basically means you are like this invisible person right here. You can see some parts of him, like his clothing and his hat and the glasses, but nothing else. So this is basically makes your search private, your activity private. And a lot of students like it because it keeps teachers from being able to see what they've been searching for. But in this case, make sure you know how to find your incognito. It's right up here once again, and you can open multiple tabs just like in a regular opening regular tabs. They're just all private. That's all that means. Incognito means private. So I'm coming out of that to show you how to clear your data. And I probably need to do this a little more often than I actually do, but just for privacy purposes, you need to make sure that the students know about it, especially if they use a shared public computer. And I think it's just something that you should know. So right here, once you go to more tools, the same drop down menu that you use for incognito, go to more tools and find where it says clear browsing data. And you can actually access your extensions if you have any. Extensions are, of course, what I've used to record sessions, things to that nature. So that should be going into the incognito and clear data section of your quick notes. All right, so I've covered that. Now my question to you is, I have multiple questions. And these are the questions that you have as well on your quick notes. And I would like for participants to participate. That's why I call you participants. I definitely wouldn't call you students because you're participants. And you should be able to name off how many or what types of media you can insert into Google Docs and or Google Slides. And if you don't want to speak out loud, you can type it into the chat box. But name off some of the different types of media that you can insert into a Google Doc and or Google Slides, because they're mostly all similar. If you're able to add it to a slide, you can add it to a doc. So I can take volunteers or type in the side. Okay, so YouTube videos is one. Images is another. We have a few more. Drawings, yes. Yes. Okay. So you know, if anything else, you should know the best way to see what you can insert is by hitting this insert, and it gives you media wise, it gives you audio, of course. Um, the images come videos, which is the answer to number two. The only thing you can add in Google Slides that you cannot, as of yet, add to your Google Doc is video. You cannot add a YouTube. I've tried until I realized that I couldn't. I was so excited when I first started with Google that I wanted to put a video in anything. You can, of course, include a link to a video, but you cannot embed an actual video in the Google Docs. So that would be the answer to the second one. What is the main difference about inserting media between docs and slides? The only difference is that Google Docs will not allow for you to add a YouTube video. You can add the link, but not the actual video. All right, so question number 3 on my presentation is, where can those sources come from? So all those various sources have different portals. So what are some of the portals that you can get those resources from? And you can type that in the chat box. Let's see if anyone, there's several. I mean, of course I can just click on it and show you, but I want you either to find it. Okay, upload from computer is one. Just think about when you're uploading or inserting where, okay, and Earl is another one. What's the biggest one that we keep all of our, we're supposed to keep all of our resources in? That's okay. So Google Drive is another. So if you're looking at the insert option again, it'll give you that answer. And these are, you can actually use your camera on the top. Okay, Google Docs, you can insert it, Google Docs in, well, no, Miss Brazil, you can't insert, yes, ma'am. You can insert the Google, everything from the drive into the docs. So, yes, ma'am. But, yeah, you can open your camera if you need to insert a picture yourself. You can insert the URL, and that's where I ended up putting the Jiffy, how I added the Jiffy and other. I tried TikTok, that's not working yet, big TikTok fan, but photos, Google Photos, and of course the Drive. And the other source for slides would be from YouTube. And of course your Drive adds up to your YouTube, but YouTube is the one automatic that's, unless there's some kind of block on the YouTube video or the YouTube video is private, you can also use that. So these questions that I'm asking you are mainly from looking at the last 3 units, 10, 11, 12, and 13. No, it's 10, 11, and 12. Because unit 13 is basically something that we as educators should already know everything about, and that's being able to promote digital citizenship. So I did not cover that at all, because that's something that we're pounding into our children's heads all the time, but they just want to make sure that you cover the responsibilities of being digitally responsible. Okay, name ways to edit the images or media that you add to Google Docs and Slides. How can you edit the image or media added in Google Docs and slides. How can you do that? It's two different ways. And if you don't know, I'm about to show you. All right, so I don't see anyone give me any feedback, but I'm scared to look for images on my computer because there's no telling what you will see, but I'll do it anyway. Let's see, pictures. Okay, yeah, I can't go wrong with this. Because this is my work computer, so there's nothing too crazy on here. So how can you, the question was, and that's the first one, how ways to edit. So scaling is one way. By you scaling, you can scale small, you can stretch it out. So that's one way. Scaling is one way to edit the image to how you need it to be. And so we're basically covering the portion that Google wants you to make your presentations and your lessons more appealing or, visually attractive. So that's one way for you to scale, and not like Mimeo, their scaling is a little different. You have to turn their scaling on by percentages, and sometimes it'll let you free scale, but it's not as simple as this one. So that's one way, and the other way for you to edit your images is something we use quite often on our phone, and that is crop. So usually on other applications, they want you to crop it outside of the application. In Google Sheets, it allows for you to do it right on the sheet. So if I need to crop something, you just go to the crop feature and you're able to crop it immediately as you're preparing your lesson or your presentation. So once you get your image to the size you want to crop it to, you're like, well, how do I crop it? You just click on the crop symbol again. So that's how you crop it. You can crop it to say all you want to get, and I'll crop it again. And all I want is this image of this idol right here. So I'll click that on again, and that's all I have. So that's the two ways, by scaling and by cropping. So let me just delete this all the way. What are other ways to draw visual attention to your Google Slides? Does anyone know? How can you make your slides pop? Is there anything else you can draw attention? Word art is one. Yes, that's correct. And that's my favorite. This is my favorite. And it's a couple of things. Transitions, yes. Change the background. You can add an image, yes, ma'am. So these are ways that you traditionally would go ahead and enhance your various slides, or you can also make sure that you maybe add shapes. Shapes I do quite a bit. Sometimes they can seem a little like, for example, say the flow chart. And once you click on it, you have to click on it on your slide to see where you want it. This will be great if you want your students to come up to the board whenever we're able to move around the classroom again, and ask them to split up by, well, me teaching human geography, I'd want them to maybe add things that are culturally impacting us right now through COVID-19, and then politically, or so each section of this chart would, I would ask for them to write in. So this is a good thing to add, or even something looking at it, the economics of what we're going through right now. So I would use this for someone to come on the board and, like give me, and then of course I'll add the words on the side, and then the students can write in here, or they can, they can do it on there. But this is actually a good way to add it to other resources if you want to go ahead and print it out. So this is a good way for you to create your own charts as well, for students to be able literally actually write on. But we're trying to, save a tree. So the shapes is one. Um, lines is another, and I've used that prior when I talked about lines with arrows. So it actually gives you a line and it has an arrow. This is a little light color, so you can change the thickness of it. You can change the, you're supposed to be able to change the color. So if you want it to be very visually popping, you have everything that you need within, and you don't, this particular arrow, you don't have to have it in one spot. You can overlap them. Oops, I'm not trying to do that. Okay. So that's another one. Shapes, arrows. I think that's, yeah. All right, so let me get rid of that. Okay. So where can I find add-ons or extensions? So I told you that I would talk about add-ons. Add-ons are usually found you just right here, and that's for Google Drive. I mean Google Slides, Google Docs, as well as Sheets. You can add on specific features. The downside, and we'll talk about the downside in a few moments. So there's different types of add-ons that you can search for. The thing of it is, if you don't know what you're searching for, then it makes it a little more difficult. But I know in Google, say per se Google, let me go Docs, an add-on that I found is for me to be able to, if I have a multiple choice option already here, I can click on the doc to form. So I would type up here, doc to form. This is if I already have, this is without, I wouldn't want to double dip on my workload, but if I already have an old assessment that is multiple choice, you can literally download Dr. Form and it will transpose all your questions into a Google form. That it does have a limit of 10, I want to say, and after that, it's I would say it's a fee behind it. I've talked to another teacher that wanted to utilize it, and I think 10 is the cutoff. 10 is the cutoff, and it's supposed to be for formative, not summative assessment. So that's add-on options. So this is something that you have to go and browse for yourself. So different add-ons for different applications. The Doctor form was a Google Doc add-on. And there is the one that I added here, and I don't remember what it is, so that means I probably never used it. It's some wireframe is application. I'll have to research that because I've had it on here for so long. I don't remember why I have it on there and why I didn't take it back off. So I'll work on that. In regards to extensions, I've added the link on here, which is basically the Chrome web store. There are various different options to search for extensions, and here's some listed right here. Runs offline, made by Google. Those that are free, because yes, as far as I know, they're all free, but I could be wrong. Available for your Android if you use an Android like I do, and works with Google Drive. So those are various options. My next question was, how can I tell if an app runs offline so students can use them without Wi-Fi? So that's where the Chrome Web Store gives you an option to look for extensions that work offline. The students are able to download those extensions, and that way when they get home, they can't say, hey, I couldn't do my work because I didn't have Wi-Fi. No, if you download it like I asked you to, you should be able to use it without have access to internet or any form of Wi-Fi. So, which takes me to the next question. What are two major extensions that integrate with Google Drive? And I just gave myself a trick question because I forgot that fast. Oh, what better way? to find out, then to click on it, and maybe then I'll remember. Oh, okay. One of them, of course, is in, I don't want to give a misconception, of course, is the PDF. So when you're in Google Drive and you have a PDF that's already available to you, you don't have to convert it or anything like that. So PDF is one, and the other one is the one, of course, the one I use all the time, but I'm not on the right computer, are the various different video options. So video and PDF are the two that are the mostly used extensions that collaborate with Google Drive. So that was the answer to, you can add, I was seeing things. Okay. So Google Drive was PDF, and the video conversion or Screencastify or whatever casting extension that you choose to use. And if you are looking for more, then you should already know where to look for in the oh, in the web store. So just remember, if you don't have this link that I've given you, that you need to look for the web store, Chrome web store. And the technical difficulties I've had yesterday is trying to install Chrome on a computer that is basically run by just Microsoft Windows 10, and it has a block on it. So I'm still working on that. I don't know when they started being really specific about that, but just make sure that your computer has access to the Chrome Web Store. So there are a couple of pros and cons about the App Store. Don't know if you know them, but I'll share them with you. The pro of the Ad Store is, as far as I know, the extensions in the web store, majority of them are free. That I haven't found any that charge in a very long time. I'm sure there's some out there that do, just because that we're in a world that does, people do want to get their coins. So that's the pro. But the con is, and this is specifically to CCPS, the con is that majority of the extensions are blocked. So unless you are filling out a form, and all the technology liaisons should have access to a form created by April Mayo that allows for staff and faculty to turn in requests for the specific extensions to be what they call taken off a whitelist, because right now we have so many blocked. Of course, I'm looking at all of them now because they're not blocked on my computer, but they're blocked on the CCPS devices. So the pro is that most of it's free. The con is that it's specific to the administrator that's over your Google for Education platform. So it just depends, because if you go to another school district and they open it all up, or you say you are at CCPS and you're using a specific extension and you want it, and it's allowed at Clayton County Public Schools, and then you go to, say, APS and they whitelist theirs. So now you're having to figure out how to use that resource. So it's specific by the district. All right, what do we have left? We have left, what are perks of Google applications that help educators to stay effective? There is a couple of them, and one of them I talked for an extensive period of time. So this is a question to you. Now, I've given you the answer to the number 11. One of them today, and we worked on the other one, or I utilized the other one in session 5. So if you weren't here in session 5, you may not remember, but what are some perks of the Google applications that allow for us to stay effective as educators for the student, or each other? If you want to check on each other, then Anyone? There's just two. And I know I've seen that in one of the lesson checks. That was actually, I want to say it was for me. It was a question for me. Can can anyone think of what are a couple of perks? And okay, well, Miss Yarbrough shared one of them, which was basically being able to. Okay, collaboration is definitely one, and I didn't even think about that, but definitely it talks about collaboration a lot in the reviews or in the units because it Google wants you to be able to have access to students collaborating inside and outside the classroom. So that's definitely one. The other one, okay, it keeps your lesson alive. Yes. Not only is it alive because you're allowing it for it to be alive by inserting different types of documents and links. Okay, well, y'all giving me way more than the two that I was looking for, so that's great. And it talks about all those within the review section. The fact that it consistently changes and you don't have to, like, when we were younger, when I was younger, once you save the document, that's what you're stuck with. Now the students get the updates as we're updating. So if you want to update a Google slide that you've already shared with them, it stays literally alive because it's a live document. The other one, of course, as Ms. Yarbrough pointed out earlier, was the fact that we are able to look at the revision and the history, which makes us able for us to go back and there's been times where students have deleted each other's work. Well, you can go back to the version that you needed to go, to retrieve that information. And sometimes students do it intentionally, sometimes they do it by mistake, but it gives you a way to go back in time that we didn't have 15, 20 years ago. And of course, to being able to comment and give feedback immediately while the students are working on the various different assignments. So if you're working from home and you're telling your class to be online, say from 11 to 12 or from 11 to 1, you can literally work with them individually without even having to open your mouth and give feedback in a discreet kind of way without embarrassing a student if they feel like they don't want the whole class to know their sentence structure is really bad, like Miss Hartley's sentence structure. My grammar is not really good. I mean, it was good enough for me to get a master's, but then I also use a lot of Grammarly, and I make sure that I double and triple check on everything. So that was the last portion I had for the questions that I feel like are for the good of the group. They are also part of the material that's covered in lessons 10, 11, and 12. So these are some of the things that are covered in 10, 11, and 12. There's more, but I also feel like the more you play around with these different applications, the more you're going to discover. And it's going to be so much that, like, oh, Miss Hartley didn't tell me about this. Well, that's because there's just not enough time that will allow for me to touch on everything. Um, Make sure that you go and complete the remaining lesson checks and unit reviews just to prepare yourself. And there's times, and I've looked at the way the unit and lesson reviews are now compared to a year ago. There's been several changes. So it's sometimes why I have to go in there and ask myself, can I go ahead and complete this lesson check or this unit review without getting any of them wrong? So I've had to check myself to make sure that I'm still on top of my game, and they consistently update, and that's why Google asks for trainers to take the test once a year and for educators to recertify every 3 years. um, Great way for you to review to get ready for the assessment, to go back to those previous lessons. It allows for you to go back to all of them. You're not restricted from them. Go ahead, and since it saves your answers review your answers. It's not like you're having to take the exam again or the lesson check or the unit review again. It saves it for you. And then with in combination with the Google Slides that I provided that you still have access to, you'll see how they correlate without literally teaching to the test. I try to incorporate as much as I could. Now, these resources right here, I'm going to submit videos on all four of those, just because I know that would be a whole nother session. And I want you to be able, at your own discretion, you need to know about the blue sphere is the symbol for Google Earth. You need to make sure you're familiar with the basics of Google Earth. Of course, I'm really familiar. That's one of my biggest go-tos because I teach social studies, world history, and human geography in particular. So it's a really good resource for me. But I remember Ms. Yarbrough telling me about how certain features in Google Earth have helped her in her English classes. So you can use it for science, you can use it for social studies as well as your English curriculum. And then sometimes it's really good for, say you're teaching adults or you're communicating with adults, to know who you're talking to and where they're from, especially if you're working with someone that's abroad. The Science Journal has several different applications and resources that are available to you via and I made a notation to myself on that because it's not available on a regular desktop, but it's available on Androids and iPhones as well as Chromebooks. So some of the Science Journal resources are not meant for a desktop or a laptop. They're meant for you to move around and work. That's almost like a hands-on option, a resource available to you. Your planet is a whole curriculum that's about teaching the students how to become work with sustainability in our environment, and it's very current. So I'm not sure if you can apply that for all content, but I definitely know it's something for my human geography or social studies class as well as science. But I'm sure if you really wanted to, or there's a great article that goes along with that, that would be a great resource. And of course, YouTube is a really big resource that you have to be familiar with because it's definitely part of the assessment, because you have to be able to create a playlist. Eventually, you'll have to be able to upload your own videos, even if it's just something really simple. You telling the students what your procedures are, but you should be able to upload and manipulate YouTube. So those are four resources. I'm going to try my best, and I'm going to create a timer just for me that I will limit those maybe to between 5 to 7 minutes tops, because they say after 8 minutes we lose our audience. And that's all I have for today. I tried my best to stay on time because I wanted, if you had any questions at the end, um, for me to have some without going into being a 3-hour session. But everything that you have, you can use it as a resource for your assessment. I wouldn't depend on me clicking through 6 different slide presentations and, whatever other resources that I've made available to you, which I didn't want to overload it, but whatever I have given to you, that you're able to have those resources. But if you have any questions in regards to the um, anything that we've covered from session 1 to today, this would be a great time. And even if it's something like, hey, do you have time on Thursday to meet, or to have another meeting, then I'm open to that. But the floor is open for you, either in the chat box, or you can turn on your mic and let me know if you have any questions or even comments or concerns.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Um, One was, I know it wasn't in the Google training thing, but you
Mhm.
had mentioned before about the email templates, and I
Uh,
couldn't find it.
the labels or templates?
The templates.
Um, okay, let me go there because I need to make sure I know what you're talking about. Now, when you say email in regards to like searching or changing the layout of your email, can you be more specific in regards to, because I've said a lot of stuff.
Like if you're always writing a certain type of parent email or something like
Oh,
that.
okay, yeah, that's definitely like a little pointer that I thought it was canned responses and they may have renamed it, and that's why we're kind of okay. Let me go and open uh on the when you open a say I'm going to send this to Dr. Horton and I want to go ahead and possibly not in the same email, or maybe I want to change some things in and I'll title it concerns. I don't know. And I just question about returning to work. So this is what my template will start off, but I've done it before and maybe I need to open one. Um, when you go to those three dots on the bottom, okay. When you open those three dots on the bottom and you go to the templates, it allows for you to for you or me to save this as a new template. And then it's for me to name it, say concerns. I'll name it concerns. But just keep in mind, I've typed a whole lot more about what my concerns are, and I want to reuse that for multiple emails down the line. So I'll just title
Was
it.
that maybe an add-on or something? Because I don't
No,
see the option on mine.
you don't have it on yours.
No.
Can can you share your screen? Let me unshare mine.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh, okay. I think okay. Share yours and I'll unshare mine. I think there's something you have to turn on, and I've had mine on for so long. I mean, a while. So while you were doing that, let me make sure I'll find it. I'm glad you brought that up. And if it didn't mention it in, okay, uh, I know now why, because I think you have to turn it on. Let me figure out how to turn it on. It is in the settings, and I hope it's not tucked away to where I can't find it, but it's something that is turned on in your settings, and it shouldn't be an add-on unless they've changed it. No, because it would be, hmm,
Oh,
account.
there it is.
It is actually, it's definitely in the settings.
I see it.
You see it, is it under canned responses?
It's under advanced under
Okay,
settings.
okay. There you go. And I'm glad you mentioned that because mine has been on for so long. I I would say that was part of level two, and that's why it isn't prompted in the training. But I'm glad. Just remember, if you turn it on now, that you won't be like me and forget how you turned it on. Because once you go in, once you go into incognito, everything is blank. So you have a brand new account. Nothing is set uh, to your specifics. So if you and I'm so glad you asked me that question because you wouldn't probably ever. I never thought about it again because I've had it turned on for the last year, and that was part of a training that I received at one point in time. And I'm so glad you asked that. Let me make a notation. If I need to add that to a slide, then I will. Turn on templates in advance under settings. All right. So we've got that. That's very beneficial to the group. So is anyone else have a question, concern, something that you noticed that we hadn't covered that you may have come across in the training sessions?
I know it's like 3 hours for the test, and I know that you have to have like a webcam there. Um, do like do they let you go to the restroom or?
No restroom. No restroom. The webcam, and that's it. I don't recall because I haven't read that portion in a while, but they're very specific. I guess if you want to get up and go to the restroom, then it won't count against you. The camera takes random pictures of you for the 3 hours just to make sure that there's no one else sitting in your seat. So if you want to take out that time, there's no way to pause it, to step away where your timer will stop ticking. So I definitely, like me, I take blood pressure pills. That would not be today. I would take them that time. I would make sure that my restroom breaks are out of the way because you'll just be tapping. And teachers or anyone that works in the school building, we know how that is where you don't have access to the restroom like you want to. But it basically just opens, and once you open it in incognito, I would say, as far as I remember, you're looking at yourself. There's like a little window that you can look at where you can see yourself, but all the camera does is it takes random pictures of you, make sure that's no one else sitting in your seat. And that's kind of avoiding them having to send you to a test center.
And then my last question was, like I know you were saying that they encourage us to look stuff up, and I know before we started this class, I saw a YouTube video that was saying like maybe to have if you have access to a second computer, to have it open to look stuff up too. And so like looking up or researching answers, should we just always just use the second one if we have it, or should we open an incognito window in order to look something up?
Okay, actually, for me, I didn't know at the first time I took it, didn't realize that we could have another computer that wouldn't violate anything. So I didn't have it for any of them, or it never just crossed my mind at the time. But then, as time goes by and I talk to other Google educators and trainers, it's not discouraged. It just, you have to realize that if you spend a lot of time um, searching, you're taken away from the time that you're actually applying. And I guess, you just, as long as you have a sense of time, that's really what it boils down to. You can do an incognito window, you can have another laptop. It just really depends on how well you manage two laptops. It's an adjustment for me because I've never done that before. I've been on a computer at a job where we had multiple monitors, but one wasn't connected to the other. So it didn't confuse me, because now that I'm switching back and forth, I have to remind myself sometimes, hey, the one right in front of me is the one that I'm presenting from, versus the one that's on my right is the one that I am reading the chat box and looking, make sure that you can see what I'm seeing. Because obviously I forgot a couple of times during these sessions that I have the same visual that you have from your perspective. So I wouldn't discourage either way, the incognito or having another laptop open. Just make sure that it doesn't take you away from the timing of it all, because it can, I don't know if the young lady that I spoke to before, but I had a couple of people prior saying, hey, I did great, until I realized I only had 10 minutes left and I still had 30 minutes worth of work to do. So I think that's the only thing I can really say. I was about to, follow up with you to see if are you planning on taking the assessment today?
Yep, in about an hour and a half, probably.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna you know, send a prayer up for you, or just, you know, put the three, what do you call it, the lucky charms, that we're gonna eat us a bowl of Lucky Charms or something for you. I don't want to. I think you'll do fine. I just want you to be mindful of time. That's really, I think that's really what it boils down to, because once you get to those multiple choice questions that allows for you to have multiple choices, that was like a bummer to me. Even though I've practiced that several times in the review, but I also knew in the review and the lesson checks, there were several times where I overthought and I added or I didn't, because it's not like it's going to say, oh, wrong, try again. So, you know, just make sure that you look over everything one more time in regards to your material, because I think the application part of it you won't have a problem with. So that's just my tip to you, to look over your, you know, your questions, your review questions really quickly, over the ones that you feel you needed a little more guidance on. But I think you'll do fine. So that's oh, you're welcome. Now, if anyone else has any more questions in regards to signing up, or, you know, preparing, or either each individual application, if you need more um, instruction, just make sure that you reach out to me. Don't be afraid. I mean, we can find some kind of schedule time where everyone, or where you're available. I can do it in small with two people. I can do it with the whole entire group. Again, that's just entirely up to you. Make sure that you are familiar with these resources before you go out there and take this. Make sure that, because I noticed someone, and I don't think that person is here now, didn't realize that I actually made a video about Google Drawings. They just assumed that there are pictures out there in the image section of Google, but there's actually an application called Google Drawings, that you're familiar with that. I think that video was like 14 minutes long, and that's why I said I'm going to try to limit myself to 5 to 7 minutes on these. If you don't want to watch the video, then, and you feel more comfortable going to the lesson review on each one of those, because there's a section for Google Earth, which is extensive, the science journal, and if you teach science, you'd probably love that portion, just to how to, you know, get students to utilize technology when it comes to experimenting with that, you know, and it might create a mess on some things, and it may be an easier cleanup on others. If you're really into current topics, your planet would definitely be a great resource. And of course, don't forget about YouTube. So those four I'll work on as soon as I'll start off with Google Earth, and I'll start posting those. And the other reason why it takes longer, because when I have an hour recording, it takes longer for YouTube to process it. But I didn't I didn't add anything fancy, so it shouldn't take too long. But that's all I have for today. And I hope I can hear from some of you on your journey. And I might send a little reminder out if you're interested in a level 2, to go ahead and to, you know, shout me out to April or however. Don't forget to check the attendance sheet to make sure that you've given yourself credit, and therefore giving me credit, as well as any kind of feedback that you possibly could have for me moving forward, so I can be the trainer that I really, really want to be. That's a great resource for educators that will have to focus on virtually. The virtual thing is what's really concerning, because I have so many coworkers that are not savvy when it comes to instructional technology from home. They might be able to be masters at the Mimeo board, but then how do you grasp students' attention coming from a laptop? But otherwise, I don't have anything else, unless someone else wants to add to the better of the group, or just has another question.
Hi, real quick, this is Miss Sharber. I have a quick question.
Okay.
One time, I take my test tomorrow, and I know we did a review with the multiple choice questions, like it had different units. Was that on the walk for you where I signed up? I just don't remember where we did that.
Yes, you actually make sure that you go to, I usually always just type in Google teacher training. I think that's what I look for. And you know, there's an old version and there's a new version. What does it look like I'm in? Why am I in Yahoo? Okay, that's really strange. Okay. I can, the link is on the very first one. I usually have it open. That's the irony behind it. I don't understand why I'm in Yahoo. How did I do that? Okay. Well, I'll figure that part out. But it's supposed to be the Google Training Center, and my best out would just keep from having to dig for a whole lot. I will go back to the lesson from session 1, and it should be on the instructions, and you should be able to go to click on that. And it's going to ask for you to log in. It should log you in automatically if you signed up for it before. Here we go. Once you go to session 1, the instructions, I added the link on slide 6. You click on that. So me personally, all my stuff is still in the old version. I don't know if anybody's using the new one. They're pretty similar. So it's going to sign me in automatically. You don't have to remember a password or anything. But it's right here. And the training, get certified, all of that is in one spot. The new one is a little more, I don't know why it's giving me the old version. It shouldn't. If I get across, oh, here's the new one. Once you click on training, it'll pop up, everything will pop up blue, and then you can go to the new site. And just go to training courses, choose the beginner option. Is that what they titled it? For new learners, and to start the training. And it'll show, even for me, I've completed the entire online course on the old version. The new one, I just went and chose the ones that I wanted to make sure that I'm familiar with. I'm on my work computer, so I'm not sure. Okay, here we go. So it will look, and it's asking for me to log in again, but it'll give you all those options. And instead of you having to go one by one, I would just click on the unit review. Possibly, if you feel unsure, I'd go back to unit 1, and instead of reading everything, okay, it's making me log in. I would just go to the bottom of each particular lesson, and I'll just take those questions. I'll go over those questions again, the review questions. And they're always on the bottom of each lesson. But yep, so you have both ways, though, the old one and the new one. Oh, thank you, Miss Brazil. But if you have did I add my phone number in here? Let me add my phone number. If you have any immediate questions, not during the test now, don't text me during the test. You can just text me or call me. But there's my phone number. Did that do it for you, Miss Yarborough?
Yes, it was very.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, well, I still went 20 minutes over, but I appreciate your time and your patience, and I appreciate each and every one of you. If you have any coworkers or anyone that may have questions about this, feel free just to let them reach out. Oh, yeah, I don't know if I think my summer is over, Miss Hillary. The summer that I didn't have, because I have a training for AP, teaching AP classes next week, and then I'm taking the APSI the week after that, and then it's okay, and then I'm actually teaching the AP class the week after that. So it's a wrap. So I better enjoy myself between today and Sunday. So that's gonna be my summer. But that's all I have. Oh, thank you. You have my number. You have the information you need. Just reach out, email me, whatever works for you. And I hope to hear from, oh, and please let me know when you find out how your exam went, or even let me know right before you take it. I'll be here. And I'm about to log off.
Thank you, Ms. Hartley.